Okay, so let us start solving mock test 2. If you guys at any point have any questions, feel free to ask after I complete solving a question. So we'll start with this. Find 14x squared minus 19x minus 3 divided by 2x minus 13. So let me just rewrite this again. فبيكون عندنا 14x squared minus 19x minus 3. Remember, this is where your numerator will go. بعدين بيكون عندكم 2x minus 3. This is where your denominator will go. First step is you're going to look at the first value over here and the first value over here. And you're going to divide them by each other. So you're going to do 14x squared divided by 2x, and you will find your value. So here x squared, 14 over 2 is 7. X squared over x is simply just x. الحين هذا الفاليو 7x, and then you're going to write here. This is your first value, 7x. وهال 7x الحين بنضربه هني. فبيستوي 7x times 2x minus 3. أول واحد بيستوي 14x squared يوم تسوي التوزيعة. This is squared, not to the power 4. So 14x squared. بعدين 7x times negative 3. It's going to be a negative number. And then 3 times 7 is 21x. Now this answer over here, we're going to write it down under here, 14x squared minus 21x. And you're going to be subtracting. فهني you're going to be subtracting this value. Remember, it's the entire thing. يعني كامل هذا بيكون ضرب minus. For 14x squared minus 14x squared is 0. If you do not get 0 here, just know you did a mistake in finding your 7x over here. So the first value has to be equal to 0. Minus 19x minus becomes plus 21x. And then نكمل, we simplify this. Minus 19x plus 21x is going to be 2x. And we bring down the minus 3. All right, and we're going to do the exact same step again. We're going to look at this 2x and this 2x, and we're going to divide them. So it's going to be 2x over 2x, which is equal to simply 1. Hello. Positive 1. So since it's a positive 1, we're going to write here plus 1. Again, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to multiply 1. And then we're going to multiply now 1 times 2x minus 3. We're going to take this value and we're going to multiply it here with this 2x minus 3. وبيبقى لنا 2x minus 3. So we simply just write this down here. 2x minus 3 over here. And we're going to do minus. In this case, it's very simple. All of this is going to cancel each other out because 2x minus 2x is just 0. Again, if you don't get 0 here, just know you did the mistake in your second step. Minus 3 plus 3. All right, minus times minus becomes plus. بيستوي 0. So we have no remainder. So our answer is simply going to be 7x plus 1. This is our answer over here. All right, this is the answer to this question. And that's it. Polynomial division. المفروض all of you are very comfortable in solving polynomial division at this point. Let's move on to the next question. Everyone's favorite, partial fractions. Okay. Now, this is a good partial fractions question because we have maybe one of the more complicated ones here. So, first thing I'm going to do is, I don't like when, looking at the top at the numerator, I don't like when the x cubed is on the right. I like to have from the highest order to the lowest order. So I'll rewrite it like this. Minus 4x cubed plus 5x squared plus 5x plus 15. All I did is I just reordered the top part. All of this is divided by x squared times x squared plus 5. So in the case of partial fractions, this is going to be equal to, let's look at our first value over here, which is x squared. And then x squared is going to be linear repeated roots. زين ليش؟ لأن it's to the power of 2. معناته this is like saying x minus 0 to the power of 2. It's the same thing. So this is a linear repeated root. فأول شيء بيكون عندنا a over x squared. Sorry, just x. Then plus, we're going to go up 1 power again. b over x squared. زين linear repeated roots, this is the way to do it when you have x to the power of 2 or x plus 1 to the power of 2 all. This is how you're going to do it. You're going to do it with 1 power, then 2 power, 3 power, 4 power, up to the power that is given here. فالحين نكمل نشوف the other part, x squared plus 5. X squared plus 5, okay? You can check this in your calculator here, زين, or you can just directly look at it. When you have x squared plus 5, there's no extra x. When it is a positive value هني, we know that this is quadratic, but you cannot factorize this anymore. Why? Because it's addition. يعني, you're going to get imaginary roots. In other words, you cannot factorize this in any easy way. So this is going to be in the form of cx plus d. Okay? So this is how the form is going to be. Cx plus d over x squared plus 5. تمام? I'm going to solve this fully, completely. Okay, I'm not going to skip any step. زين. So the first thing we're going to do here, is, I'm just going to copy paste this down again. بنضرب both sides left and right by, let me make this a bit smaller. زين. So we're going to multiply both sides by the denominator. زين. So we're going to multiply here by x squared times x squared plus 5. The idea here, this will cancel with this. زين. وبعدين هني the same thing, we're going to multiply anything we do to the left, we have to do to the right. So x squared plus 5. وبعدين بنوزع هذا على الصوب اليمين. Okay? So now we're just going to look at our right part. Okay? So we're just going to look at this part now and we're going to solve. So this is just the right part. All right? Right side of the equation, the right side. All right? We're only going to look at the right side of the equation. The right side is going to look like this. So إذا وزعنا هاي على كلهم, so it's going to be a over x times x squared x plus 5 زين plus b over x squared times, again, the same thing, x squared plus 5 plus, again, c, this is over x squared, plus cx plus d, which is cx plus d over x squared plus 5. All right, and again, this is multiplied by x squared to x plus 5. So what are we going to do here? We're going to cancel out whatever we can with the denominators so we can simplify all of this. Insane? So first one is going to be, if we're going to cancel out, we can cancel out one of the squares with x. So we will remain with a times x into x plus 5, or x squared plus 5. Sorry, these are all x squared plus 5. Okay, so this is x squared plus 5, x squared plus 5, x squared plus 5, plus b. Again, we're going to look at how we can cancel. Here we can cancel x squared completely مع x squared. بيبقى لنا x plus 5. Okay, plus cx plus d. So cx plus d times, again, we're just going to cancel x plus 5, or x squared plus 5, I should say. This is x squared plus 5. This is x squared plus 5. زين. We're going to cancel it out with the x squared plus 5 at the bottom. وبيبقى لنا x squared by itself, so x squared. Okay, so this is the right side. Yes, this is x squared plus 5. Thank you. Okay, x squared plus 5. Yes. Sorry, I was just not copying it correctly. Again, we're just multiplying left and right with this denominator, x squared plus 5. بنوزع على right side and we will just distribute and cancel out correctly. All right. Now, And هني my next step will be, we're just looking at the right side. We'll go back to the left side in a bit. My next step will be إني أوزع كل شيء في بعض step by step. ففي البداية let's leave our A's outside. Okay. Let's leave the A outside. Let's look at x into x squared. So this will become x cubed. X into 5 is going to become plus 5x. Okay. Plus B. Again, هني already متوزع. Remember, this is all of this. هني already متوزع. فبنخليه نفس ما هو. Plus C x plus D. خلنا نوزع ال CX plus D مرة واحدة. فبيستوي CX cubed. زين. بلس بس قاعدين نوزع الاكس سكويرد الحين بلس دي اكس سكويرد. alright, دي اكس سكويرد. okay, let me just put back الحين الcolors. So we have A, we have B, and we have C. okay, وزعناهم. الحين خلينا نوزعهم one last time. إن نوزع كل ال A's into x cubed و 5x وكل هذا. And here I'm not going to use any colors anymore and I'll show you why. فبيستوي ax cubed plus 5ax plus bx squared plus 5b plus cx cubed plus dx squared. Okay, so this is now what we get من توزيعات فوق. الحين let us compare this, let us simplify this. إنزين, how do we simplify this? الحين إحنا بنجمع anything that has x squared together. So anything, first of all, anything that has x cubed بنجمعهم together. فهني عندنا x cubed, هني عندنا x cubed, بنجمعهم. Anything that we have x squared بنجمعهم ويا بعض. هاي ال x squared وهاي ال x squared. Alright. Anything where there is one x بنجمعهم ويا بعض. في هالحالة بس this is the only one with just an x. And anything that has no x's at all, اللي in this case is just this 5b, بنحطهم ويا بعض. Alright. So A, any with x cubed, C is with x cubed, B is with x squared, D is with x squared. All right, with the signs obviously, with the plus, and then هني 5a is with the x. Okay, وبيبقى لنا ال plus 5b. All right, so everything is highlighted. All the highlighted numbers, we're just going to gather them next to each other. How do we do that? So it's going to be ax cubed. خلينا نبدأ ويا ax cubed. So ax cubed plus cx cubed. زين هاي أول شيء. Plus, let us go for the x squared next. So plus bx squared plus dx squared. زين. Now we will go for the a, for the x by itself, I mean, plus 5ax. And lastly, we will go for the one without an x, which is plus 5b. And then, الحين the last step here before we look at the left side, we are going to group up بناخذ يعني العامل المشترك, which is the common factor between all of the similar colors. So in this case, x cubed is common. So what will we be left with is a plus c, and then x cubed plus, same thing again, we are going to do for the next two, b plus d x squared plus, again, the same thing we're going to do here. Here, all we have is 5a, but again, I will write it in this form because it makes it simpler later on when we solve. And then plus the last thing we have is 5b. All right. This is always the steps I will follow when we have a very complicated يعني x cubed, x squared, a lot of x's. This is the first thing I will do. Now, let me just make a copy of this and take it down here. So now we are finished with our right side. Okay, so this is our right side. Tamam? We are done with the right side. Okay, now we are going to bring in the left side. Left plus right side. We have both sides now together. Okay, left plus right side. فخلنا ننزل right side اللي عندنا إياه. Remember here, this is just cancelled all of it, the denominator, so we're only left with the numerator that is up here. Okay. This is our left side, which was just the numerator. And it's going to be equal to our right side. Okay. هني we have an equal sign, so left side is equal to right side. خلصنا من right side, now we're looking at both the left and the right. Again, now we're going to compare the x cubed factor with whatever x cubed we have here. هني x cubed شنو عندنا؟ عندنا minus 4. Okay. x squared شنو عندنا؟ عندنا هني plus 5. x شنو عندنا؟ عندنا plus 5 again. Oops, wrong color. Plus 5. وال15 شنو عندنا اللي بدون x? We have plus 15. Okay, just the values, not the x. We're just looking at their coefficients. الحين the idea here is anything on the left has to be equal to the right. For anything that is with x cubed, يعني any coefficient of x cubed has to be equal to whatever is on the right side of x cubed as well. فمعناته our first equation is a plus c is equal to minus or negative 4. لأن هني this green part has to be equal to this green part because they're both coefficients of x cubed. Same thing for the next part. It's b plus d is equal to plus 5. تمام? Same thing again for the next part. We have 5a is equal to 5. 5 from the left, whichever is the x, because 5a is times x, 5 times x. Okay? وآخر واحد عندنا 5b is going to be equal to 15 plus 15. This is plus 5. All right? مو لازم أحط البلس, but just to show you how it looks like. And that's it. And now we can start analyzing this very easily. If you notice already we have an equation with just 5a, just with a over here. So we can look at this equation. زين. This equation is 5a is equal to 5. We can solve this instantly. We can say that a is equal to 5 divided by 5. We're just dividing 5 both sides. Therefore, our a is equal to 1. This is the first answer that we found. The first factor that we found that we want to plug into this equation. All right. Remember, at the end of the day, we're trying to find a, b, c, d, so we can put them into this form. Next part. The next part is this one. 5b is equal to 15. Again, there's no other variables other than b. So we can simplify this. 5b is equal to 15, and we can find b directly. b is going to be 15 divided by 5. We just divide 5 by both sides. So b is equal to 3. All right? So we found our a and we found our b. Now we can look at these equations again, the top two equations. Then, if you notice here, this one has a and c in it. So we already found the value for a. So we can rewrite this as 1, which is the value for a. We're just substituting for a, plus c is equal to minus 4. So once you solve for c, our c was green, c is equal to, we're just going to take the 1 to the other side, becomes minus 4 minus 1, which is minus 5. اللي بعده, same exact idea. We have b already. We found b from here. زين? This isn't orange b, this is the blue. b. Then this, now here, we are talking about the colors of this. A, B, and C. And we're just trying to relate it to here. So we found C equal to minus 5. B plus D is equal to, so we have our B value, which is 3, plus D is equal to plus 5. Therefore, D, we just take the 3 to the other side. It becomes 5 minus 3. Our D, which was in purple, is equal to 5 minus 3, or 2. And we have completed the solution. We have solved this partial fraction. So we will do this first step. First, we will solve for this. This we will solve second, because here we don't have any other variables. It makes it so much easier to solve, so that then here we can just plug into the equation and solve instantly. So our final solution, if we just bring this back down again, let's bring this original thing back down. So this was our form. All right, this was our form. So now we know our A value is, our A value is 1. Our B value is 3. Our C value is -5. And our D value is 2. And that's it. That's the solution of this. So we can also write this in a different way just to have it a bit neater. This is already correct. If you write this as an answer, it is correct. But usually I don't like to have a negative sign to be at the beginning. So what I would do is I would remove this and write it as 2 minus 5, 2 minus 5x. All right? This is how I would write it. It's the same thing. I just swapped their places. At the end of the day, even here, it is correct. But I would recommend when you have a negative at the beginning, just put parentheses so that it is clear that this negative is for the numerator only. All right. So this is me. I personally prefer this way when solving, when I have more than A and B, or more than A, B, and C. When it goes up to D, I would usually use this form because it's much easier for me to just analyze everything, distribute, and I would not make any mistakes. A different way you can solve this, which I wouldn't be really into that much, but a different way of solving this is, so we will keep this over here. This was our formula initially, all right? So we know up to this step. Up to this step, all right? So this is a second method. Just going to mention that down. Second method. All right? So you're just going to reach up to this step on the right-hand side. And we're going to take our left-hand side like it is, which was the numerator from here. Copy, 1 minute. So which is this numerator over here. And it is equal. So if you've understood up to this here, up to this point here, you could just use this to solve. There's nothing wrong. But some people prefer solving it in a different way. And this is also correct. And let me show you how. So what they do is they analyze each of the fractions over here, these blocks with the x's. They want to find a way to make everything equal to 0. And then they just substitute in whatever remaining values is. I do not recommend this method. In general, I will never recommend this method, and it takes too much time to solve, but I just want to show you the way. So here, and Zain, how can this be equal to 0? We have an x. So if x is equal to 0, this will all cancel out. Same thing with here, this part as well. Why? Because it's multiplied by x squared. So when x is equal to 0, it will cancel all of this out, and we can find b directly. Okay? So we can say that we assume a first value of x, which is equal to 0. Okay? Usually this method is good when you have just two variables and it's simple and it's usually linear roots, not repeated. This method will be very fast to solve. Other than that, if you have linear repeated or complex in this case, I would not recommend this method. All right? But for the sake of practice, so let's substitute x equals 0 in the equation above. So all of these values are going to be 0, minus 4x cubed plus 5x squared plus 5x. They're all going to be 0 because you're multiplying by 0. And you're going to remain with plus 15 is equal to, remember, this whole part is going to become 0 because this whole thing is going to be cancelled out, plus b into 0 plus 5, because we're substituting now just 0 for x, plus 0. If you notice here, instantly we found our b value. Okay, so if we simplify this, 15 is equal to b times 5. Therefore, b times 5. So therefore, b is going to be equal to 15 over 3, which is 15 over 5, which is 3. Just like we did earlier, we found b. Okay? Now, when you are going to look at this again, we have already used the value of x equals 0 for this. And we have found out that b is equal to 3. So you can substitute this into this equation as b is equal to 3. But look here now. If you notice, we cannot get anything else equal to 0 anymore. So here, the only possible way is by putting 3 random numbers for x and solving. So how it would look like is x is equal to 1, and we'll solve with that. And we're going to substitute into everything. So x is equal to 1. This is going to be minus 4 plus 5 plus 5 plus 15. Then 1 to the power of anything is just 1. So 4 times 1, negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 15 is equal to a. Again, everything is just 1 inside. So it's 1 times 1 squared, which is 1, plus 5 plus 3, the 3 we got from b, into 1 plus 5 plus c times 1, which is just c, plus d times 1. Let's simplify this. 5, 5, 15, that's 25, minus 4, that's 21, is equal to a times 1, 5 plus 1 is 6, 6 times 1 is 6. 1 plus 5 is 6 times 3 is 18, plus c plus d. So if you notice here, plus c plus d. Okay? We can simplify this even more. We can take the 18 to the other side. So it's going to look like this. 21 minus 18, which I'm just going to write the answer. 21 minus 18 is 3, is equal to 6a plus c plus d. Plus d. And you got your first equation. The next step would be substituting another value for x. So let's say, so this was for x equal 1. Let me change the color of x equal 1. So this was for x equal 1. Okay. Now let's do it for x equal negative 1. And you're going to get another equation again. You're going to solve it. It's going to be in terms a, b, and c. So this is our first equation. How many unknowns we have? We have 1, 2, 3 unknowns. So we're going to get here a second equation. And to solve a problem with 3 unknowns, we're going to have to substitute another x value, let's say 2. All right, it doesn't matter the value. We just use simple numbers so we can simplify. And then you're going to get a third equation over here. All of them are going to have some a in them, some c in them, and some d. All right, something like this in both cases. And then you'll have to use simultaneous equations to solve. So the reason I don't even want to continue this, look how long it took me just to solve for 1. This method I would only recommend, only use for normal linear. Okay, do not use this for repeated linear, and do not use this for complex or quadratic. Tamam? This is the reason I didn't use this method. It works, it's correct, you can do it. But look, it took me this long just to find my first equation. We have 3 other unknowns. So we're going to have to find another equation, and then we have to do a 3 by 3 simultaneous equation to solve and get our a, c, and d. So again, I would not recommend this method at all. I just wanted to show you how it would look like if you wanted to solve. And then once you find it, you're going to notice that a, c, and d are the same exact values as we did in this previous method. So this is basically it for partial fractions. Does anyone have questions about partial in general? I will do a quick recap for this method again. First step is I like to usually arrange from highest to lowest order. And the question gave me 15 plus 5x plus 5x squared minus 4x cubed. I like to arrange it from highest to lowest order. It makes things simple for me. Then I will write my A, B, C, and D depending on what I have at the bottom, since this part is a repeated linear. All right. So this is repeated linear. And this is a quadratic. So we're going to have to follow the forms of linear, repeated linear, and quadratic. So the repeated linear is going to be a over x plus b over x squared. The quadratic is going to be in the form of cx plus d. Okay. After that, I'm going to multiply by the denominator on both sides. On the left, it's going to completely cancel. On the right-hand side, I'm going to have to do simplification and see how it is going to be how it's going to turn out at the end. Of course, all the denominators should definitely cancel. If they do not, just know that you have done something wrong in your calculation or in your copying or whatever. So make sure that all your denominators is eventually getting canceled out with one of these factors. Then I am going to simplify all of these and distribute everything. Then I will order them in my x powers. So the x power 3 will come first, then x power 2, then x power 1, then x power 0 or no x's, basically, the constants without an x. Then بعدها يعني I will group them up and take the x's as common factors for each one. بعد ما أخلص من هاي الستep الحين I will look back at the left side with the right side both at the same time. On the left side, I'm going to look at the coefficients of each of the x cubed, x squared, x, and no x, and equate them to the coefficients of x cubed, x squared, x, and no x on the right side. لأن they have to be equal, logically يعني. ف a plus c is my coefficient for x cubed on the right. It has to be equal to my coefficient on the left, which is -4. Same thing with b plus d, same thing with 5a, and same thing with 5b. We will look at the simpler ones that we can solve. There is always going to be at least one that is simple. And if you can solve that simple one, then you can find out the rest by just doing substitution. Otherwise, you might have, at worst case scenario, a 2 by 2 simultaneous equation, yani two equations with two unknowns. You will just use either elimination or substitution method to solve. And you guys should already be familiar with simultaneous equations. That is it for partial. And I think this is one of the more difficult concepts for students in the exam. Any questions before I move on? No? All right. Let us look at question 2. So all of this solving is question 2. Tamam? Because of the time, I'm not going to be repeating long division right now. You can always just refer back to the video, inshallah, and you will be able to see the long division. Or if you wait after the mock test is completed, I will go over the long division again, no issue. All right, so let me just finish the mock test أول. بعد ما خلص, inshallah, I will go over long division again. So, question 2 says, evaluate the limit. Our favorite thing, limits. So we have this limit of x as it approaches or tends to 7 of the square root of x plus 2 minus 3 over x minus 7. So obviously the limit is basically just substituting the 7 into the x, but if we do this, we're going to get 0 in the denominator and it's not solvable. So what do we do instead? We try to rearrange this equation in some way so that we can cancel out this x minus 7 or get rid of it in a way that will make the equation easier to solve. So how do we do that? Very simple. What we're going to do is, in this case, when you have this form, anytime you see square root of x plus 2 minus something or plus something, you're going to multiply by something called the conjugate. So what is the conjugate? Conjugate is equal to the conjugate, I should say, of square root x plus 2 minus 3. The conjugate of it will be square root of x plus 2 negative becomes positive 3. That's it. This is what the conjugate is. All right. The reason we do this conjugate, I will explain now, so that we can multiply this. If we multiply these two, the square root of x plus 2 minus 3 and the square root of x plus 2 plus 3, when we are doing this multiplication, this is in the form of a squared minus b, sorry, it's in the form of a minus b times a plus b. And remember, this is equal to a squared minus b squared. If you don't have this memorized, it's fine. You can always just do the distribution, but this is just a fast way of knowing it, all right? Because this is in a standard form. So our a in this case here, our a is square x plus 2, square root of x plus 2, I mean. And our b value is 3, okay? Because here we have 3, 3. So this is our b value. And this is our a value. All right? This is why it is 3 for b. And for a, it is square root of x plus 2. Tamam? Because it is in the same form. So if you notice a minus b, same thing. And then we have a plus b. This is the whole idea of this. All right? Let's just simplify it now while we have this going on for us. So if we apply this equation, what are we going to get? We're going to get a squared. So what is our a again? Our a is square root of x plus 2 squared. Remember, this is just equal to the top, right? The same equation that we're doing at the top, it's equal to the bottom part here. A squared minus b squared. What is our b value? It is 3. And this is going to be squared. So if we simplify this again, this is going to be x plus 2, because the square will cancel with the square root, minus 3 minus 3 squared, which is 3 squared is 9, so it's minus 9. So when we simplify this, this is going to be x minus 7, 2 minus 9. So how do we do this now in the limit phase? All right, how do we do this for the limit? In the limit, obviously, when you're multiplying something, anything you're going to multiply at the top, you're going to have to multiply it again at the bottom. فبيكون عندنا at the top square root of x plus 2 minus 3. Sorry, plus 3, which is the conjugate, this conjugate over here, divided by, again, the same conjugate, because anything you multiply up, you're going to have to multiply down. So now we can simplify this. So this is going to be the limit as x goes to 7. We have already simplified the top part early on here. I showed you how the simplification of the top part is, because the top part is just a minus b times a plus b. When we simplified it, we got, what did we get? X minus 7. So we got x minus 7 at the top. And at the bottom, it is going to be x minus 7 times square root of x plus 2 plus 3. All right? You don't need to distribute at the bottom. Why? Because if you notice now, you can cancel the x minus 7 at the top with the x minus 7 at the bottom, which was causing us the issues. So this is going to be equal to the limit as x tends or goes to 7 of 1 over the square root of x plus 2 plus 3. Now we can substitute our value of 7 into our x into the equation. This is going to be 1 over the square root of x plus 2. X is 7 plus 2 plus 3. This is equal to 1 over the square root of 9 plus 3, which is equal to 1 over 3 plus 3. So therefore, this limit is going to be equal to 1 over 6. Okay? This is simply how you would do it. The way you can check if your answer is right or wrong, just use this for checking. Do not use this for solving, because they're going to grade you on actually doing all these steps. So you have to know how to do all these steps. If you just write the answer directly, بتحصلون يمكن علامة من 20 or whatever the grade is. Okay, so this has 12.5 marks. I would assume you might get 2.5 marks out of the 12, maybe even less. So the way to check, so I'm just going to say this in red, to check, only to check. All right, assume x is equal to 6.99999, a number very close to 7. Again, you're only doing this to check, to make sure that your number is correct. So when you assume this and you plug it into the original equation here, all right, square root of x plus 2, square root of x plus 2, again, our x is 6.9999 plus 2 minus 3 divided by the square root of, sorry, there's no square root, it's just 6.999 minus 7. You will see that your answer is very close to 1/6. All right? And you have to just take a value. So the answer I got is 0.016667. 1/6 is equal to 0.16667. All right? So this way, I know that, okay, I got the correct answer. But again, this is only to check. Do not just write this in the exam, or else you won't get your full grade. One more extra point I want to comment on. If you notice here, when I was doing the conjugation, I did not write the limit anywhere. I was just doing basic conjugation. But as soon as I wrote limit, when you are simplifying, make sure you are writing limit the entire time. So if what you can do is, if you don't want to keep writing limit, do not write limit from the very beginning. Just keep simplifying the equation as it is. So do not write the limit as x goes to 7. Do not write that. Just write this equation by itself. Simplify the entire equation. Then rewrite this equation as limit as x goes to 7 is equal to, and then put the limit again and put this final equation over here. All right, so the limit of x approaching 7 of 1 over square root of x plus 2 plus 3. Then you can start solving. All right. What I mean is, عشان بس توضح الفكرة, if you don't want to keep writing limit all over again, you can write this as, copy there. You can write this as this. After finishing all your simplification, you're going to arrive to this formula, right? So you're going to write this at the very last step is equal to this. Then, عشان you show that this limit is the same as this limit. And then you're going to be writing, once you substitute the 7 in, you're going to be writing your solution. So after that, you could just write equal to this, and then there's no more limit. Okay, this is the appropriate way of writing with limit and without limit. So you can do all your simplification without the limit, but make sure your final step is showing that the limit of the original equation that is given in the question is equal to the limit of what you have simplified. And then you're going to substitute the 7 to show it. This is just how neat work is shown. Ashan, when the examiner, when he wants to grade you, he makes sure that you know your steps, you know what you're doing, you know what the definition of a limit is and what the meaning of it is. Any questions about this so far? Clear? Okay. I'm going to assume it's clear. You can refer to the previous mock test where there was a limit of infinity, and you can look at that. I will explain the conjugate again. Okay. So for the conjugate, it's always only going to be used for when you have this form. Okay. When you have it in this form, when you have a square root of something minus outside the square root or plus outside the square root. All you need to know is the conjugate of this is going to be the same exact formula and 3 with a plus in the outside. Okay, so this minus will turn into this plus. That is all you need to understand from conjugate. And then you will multiply them with each other. That's it. Okay, that is what the conjugate is. When you multiply them, again, if this is too confusing, a squared minus b squared, this is just a standard form. Okay, this is just a standard form. If this is too confusing, you could do your distribution of 1 by 1. So you'll do square root of x plus 2 into square root of x plus 2, بعدين square root of x plus 2 into plus 3, بعدين negative 3 into square root of x plus 2, بعدين negative 3 into 3, and you're going to get the same answer. But this form is basically saying that this is our a, and this is our b, all right? So because it is in the form of a minus b multiplied by a plus b, you simply can use a squared minus b squared to be the solution of that instead of doing your distribution. That is the only thing I'm doing here. Instead of doing distribution, I am just using this form because it is a simplified version of it. That's it. So just the conjugate is basically when you're flipping the sign of the value that is outside, not inside. All right. Moving on to the next question. Oh, perfect. There's a limit to infinity here again. So let's do that. So I'm guessing in the exam, they're going to give you two limit questions, one approaching 1 and one approaching a number and one approaching infinity. So it's saying evaluate g of x as the limit g of x approaches infinity. Okay. In the case when we have limit of something going to infinity, we want to get rid of all the x's in the numerator. Why? Because then when you put infinity substituted in, everything is just infinity over infinity. Nothing makes sense. So what is the best way of doing this? Okay. You are right, Hussein, and you will see why. I was going to talk about that as well. But let us first solve this. How are we going to solve this? First thing is, let's write this as g of x. We're not going to write the limit of anything. We're just going to solve this 3x5. Yani we're just going to simplify this before we add the limit to it. All right? So the first step of this will be 5x to the power 5, 4x squared minus x minus 2. The very first step you will do here is you will look at your highest power. It doesn't matter if it's in the numerator or denominator, you're going to look at that one. So in this case, both here x power 5 and here we have x power 5. This is our highest power. So we know that x power 5 is our highest power. We're going to divide everything by x power 5. And what do I mean by everything? I mean everything in the numerator and everything in the denominator. How are we going to do that? This is what it will look like. So let me just give myself some space over here. بيكون عندنا 3x power 5 divided by x power 5 minus 8x cubed divided by x power 5 plus 12 divided by x power 5. And the same thing we are going to do in the denominator. So 5x power 5 divided by x power 5 plus 4x squared divided by x power 5 minus x divided by x power 5. زين. Minus 2 over x power 5. So this is the first step. We're going to be dividing everything by x power 5, every single number component of both the numerator and the denominator. Okay? So once we do that, now we can simplify. So if I just copy paste this, because I'm too lazy to write all of that again. زين. عندنا هذا. So now we're just going to simplify all of these with the x power 5s. You know what? Keep the highlights on them. We're going to simplify all of these. So when you divide, the first one is going to cancel out directly. And then x power 5 and x power 5 is going to cancel. The second one, x cubed over x5, this will become, these two will cancel and you will remain with x to the power of 2. How so? Then remember your rules of power. You're going to have 3 over here minus the power over here. This is going to be equal to x to the power 3 minus 5, which is equal to x to the power of minus 2. When you have minus, this means it's 1 over x squared. I'm not going to explain all of this. And then this is basic math. This is from math 1 and from foundation. You guys should already know this. But this is how I cancel, and this is how I'll do it for everything else. Here we don't have any x in the numerator. I'm going to just go on to the denominator. Again, the first x's are just going to cancel. The second x, again, this is 2 and 5, so it will remain with x power 3 at the bottom. X and x power 5, you will remain with 1 at the top, and over x power 4 at the bottom. 1 minus 5 is just 4, minus 4, and then 2 over x power 5. Then, so if I rewrite this now, 3 over, this is 3 over nothing, this is just 3, minus 8 over x squared, plus 12 over x5 divided by في الشات انتوا وايد متحمسين تبون توصلون للنهاية. I know. Don't worry. I'll explain it all. Don't worry. 5 plus 4 over x cubed. I'm just rewriting the simplification again. Minus 1 over x4 minus 2 over x5. So this is the idea. The idea we divided by 5 is we did not want anything in the numerator that has an x. So in this case now you notice that everything is in the denominator that has x. Why do we do this? Because remember, when we have 1 over infinity, what is it going to give us? 1 over infinity is equal to 0. Why? Because 1 over a very large number is always going to get closer to 0. إنزين? So when you want to divide 1 over 1 billion, you're going to get 0.00000000001. Okay? The same thing. So infinity, because it always keeps going and going and going, it is going to be equal to 0. So now we can do the limit, because we know that all of these values, when we substitute infinity to it, we are going to get a 0. So I'm going to write the limit. Okay, before I write the limit, so in the exam, how will I write this? In the exam, I will do the exact same way I did for simplification, obviously without the notes on the right, only the left side. And then I will rewrite the original equation again. So I'm going to write this again down here. I am going to say, because if you notice, I did not write the limit anywhere around here. So I'm just going to write the main question again, and I'm going to write the limit as x tends to infinity is equal to the limit of as x tends to infinity of this simplification that I have already figured out. Then let me make it much smaller and put it here. All right. So this is how I would write it in the exam. And then I will substitute for infinity inside of all of my x's. Then, so the limit as x tends to infinity, already we are substituting now, so we don't have to write the limit again. It's going to be 3 minus 8 over infinity plus 12 over infinity all over 5 plus 4 over infinity minus 1 over infinity minus 2 over infinity. Again, why am I not writing infinity squared, infinity cubed? لأن it doesn't matter. Infinity is infinity. Infinity is never ending. Infinity cubed is equal to infinity. Infinity معناتها رقم ما يخلص يعني لا ما في لحد. إنزين؟ So infinity will always be going to يعني forever and ever. So it doesn't matter if you have x squared, x cubed, x to the power 10. This will be you could just write it as infinity and it will be correct. And remember, any number over infinity is equal to 0. So we know that all of these values are going to be going to 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So it is equal to 3 divided by 5, which is equal to 0.6. And this is your final answer. تمام؟ Now, اللي انتوا كلكم مستعجلين عارف تبون تسوون shortcuts. You guys love your shortcuts. Now, let's go back to the original question. So since here we have x power 5 up and x power 5 down, they are the same power. Okay, since they are the same power, we can directly know, and they are the two, both of them are the highest power, we can instantly know that their coefficients is going to be our answer, which is 3 over 5. تكتبون هالشيء في الامتحان? I highly doubt they're going to give you marks. I highly doubt. So the proper way you should write it in the exam is the way I did it here. And then on the left side, obviously, this is the way you should do it. And then you will write the limit to infinity, and then you will show that everything over infinity becomes 0. And then you will find your solution. So I know that all of you just are going to say 3 over 5. We know the limit. Yes. But do you understand why that is the limit? Do you know how to simplify it? And remember, you can only do this in the case if this and this are equal. The first two powers are equal. And they're the largest powers. If they're not equal, you cannot solve it in that way. All right? So you have to do this full method. Tamam? That's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions about limit to infinity, you feel free to ask right now. I will send, inshallah, this note in Discord. And if you want in Teams as well, I will send it in Teams here. Why not? But it will definitely be uploaded into Discord. What if the top is to the power 4 instead of power 5? Solve it and you tell me. يعني what will happen? We're going to select the power 5 at the bottom. And then here at the bottom, we're going to divide by power 5. All of the top is going to be 1 over infinity, 1 over infinity, 1 over infinity, 1 over infinity at the top side. So this is also going to become 0. So it's going to be 0 over 5, so it's equal to 0. That's what's going to happen. That's why they're not going to give you that. في الانفينيتي أحل فقط بطريقة اللي آخذ على شنو؟ العكس إذا كان اللي فوق واللي تحت لهم قيمة مود 5 3 هل أحلهم ولا لازم أحل x. ما فهمت سؤالك، قاعد احاول افهم شو معناته سؤالك، بس مو فاهم شو قصد سؤالك. شو اسمه اللي الاسم ماله كأنه انفينيتي، اللي او. ممكن نشوف السؤال؟ يعني ما فهمت مود 5.3 شو يخصه هني في الموضوع. مود 5.3 is to solve a quadratic، فأنا ما أعرف شو المقصود بهالشيء. What if you used 1 over x to the power of 5? What if I used 1 to the power? It's the same thing. When you're multiplying by 1 over x to the power of 5, it's the same thing as dividing by x to the power of 5. You're going to get the same answer. تمام? So whatever you're more comfortable with. Yes, you have to use x to the power of 5 in that case. Same thing. يعني بتسوون the exact same solving. إذا كان عندك x power 4 up, you're going to do the exact same way of solving. Otherwise, you won't be able to solve. Because if you have x in any of the numerators, and then if you have any x remaining in the numerator, infinity will be infinity, so you cannot solve. So you have to always take the largest power you have when it comes to infinity. ما فهمت سؤالك اللي سألته عن المود 5.3 but there's no mod 5.3 that is ever going to be used in such a question like this. هني ما في شيء اسمه mod 5.3. هني لازم بس تقسم على الأعلى باور، على أعلى أس اللي هني وتحل. ما في طريقة ثانية تقدر تحلها. إنزين. That's okay. So I guess I answered most of those questions. Let's move on to the next question, which is now we are going into differentiation and integration, or in this case, just differentiation. I didn't see any integration question. Did I miss an integration question from the exam? Is there an integration question I didn't look at? خلينا نخلص من هذا and we'll get back to it. إنزين. So now we have gotten into optimization. إنزين. We have a piece of cardboard that is 50 centimeters by 20 centimeters. All right. We are going to cut out the corners and fold up the sides to form a box. تمام. So we are going to cut out this corner over here, and from the side, and we want to make it into a box. The cut for this to be a box, this cut has to be a square, or else it will not be a proper box. يعني هني بيكون برتفع أكثر من هني. So this cut over here, it has to be a square. تمام. It has to be a square. You know what? Let me just redraw it again. Fair. We have a cardboard box. Then we know that the top is 50 centimeters and the side is 20 centimeters. Then we want to cut out a box عشان we can fold it up. So we're going to be making cuts over here, a cut over here. نعرف ليش اللي يبغى يساهم الحين. زين. We're going to do a cut over here, a cut over here, and a cut over here. All right. We will call the size of this cut x, 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 x. زين. I will just call it x. Remember that this cut, if you notice it in this box over here on the right side, actually just give me a second عشان أكبر لكم الصورة شوي. So if we look at this box, this is the box that we're going to have. زين. This is the box that we are going to make. So if you notice, the box is going to have this height over here, which we called x. زين. This is our x. This is our 50. زين. Or this is the side of the 50 and this is the side of the 20. But this isn't equal to 50 and 20. Why? Because we are removing a part here. If you notice, this part is being removed, 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 all of this over here is being removed, and all of this over here is being removed. So how much are we removing? Remember, this is just equal to x. X, it's a square, so these are all equal to x's as well on the outside as well. then it is a square of size x. So if we look at the top part شو اللي بيبقى لنا؟ بيبقى لنا بس هني هذا right والside بيبقى لنا شنو؟ بس هذا اللي هم on both sides طبعا here and here. We will be left with this and we will be left with this red part. So let me not write this as 20 and 50. Let me write as red, I mean. Let me just write this total is 50 centimeters and the total here was 20 centimeters. This is the total size. But what if we want to find just the red part, the actual width of the box now? This red part over here, this line is equal to this red. How can I find it? We have an x on the left side and an x on the right side. So we have two x's that we need to remove from this 50. So basically, this is going to be 50 minus 2x. This is our first side. And then 50 minus 2x, because the total size is 50 and we're removing x من الصوبين, so we are removing 2 x's from it. This is going to be our dimension here. Same thing with the vertical. So we're going to have 20 minus 2x. The x from the top side and the bottom side is going to be removed. So now I have my actual width and length. So this is here equal to 20 minus 2x, and this is equal to 50 minus 2x. Tamam? I have all my dimensions, all of them, so I can find my volume. Because remember, what does the question want? Determine the height of the box. So this height is our x of the box that will give the maximum volume. Maximum volume. We are looking at getting the maximum volume. شو معناته maximum volume? Maximum volume means the volume, we need to find it, and then we need to differentiate the volume in terms of whatever we have here. So this is our, because this is our maximum size. And then, now, how do we find volume of a box? Again, volume is simply equal to length times width times height. All right? So this is our width. This is equal to our length. And this x is equal to our height. Okay? خلينا نعوض. يعني بنعوض V is going to be equal to, the length is 50 minus 2x times, the width is 20 minus 2x times the height, which is just x. All right, let us simplify this equation now. So the volume is equal to, it's equal to 50 minus 2x. Let's distribute 50 minus 2x into the 20 minus 2x. So 50 times 20 is 1000. 50 times 20 is 1000. All right. All I'm doing is distribution. Okay. Distribution of this and this into here. Okay. X, we will look at it later. And then, so 50 times 20 is 1000. 50 times negative 2x is going to be negative. 2 times 50 is 100x. Okay. Negative 20x times 20 is going to be negative 40x. Sorry, this is no x, this is just 20. And then negative 2x times negative 2x is going to be positive 4x squared. 1000 is 50 times 20. I'm just distributing. بس قاعد اسوي distribution. 50 ضرب 20 1000. 50 ضرب سالب 2x بيكون negative 100. Minus 2x times 20. Oh yeah, this is 40x. Thank you. Because this is minus 2x here times 20. And then minus 2x times minus 2x is going to be positive 4 and x squared. Okay. This is just the distribution. And all of this distribution is going to be multiplied by x over here. Okay. I'm just going to remove the x's and put them as green. So you know that that's what we're solving for. So this is x, and this was x squared. All right. H is equal to x. We just gave the value of x to the cut sides. الcut لو تشوف الصندوق انزين, the cut side you are going to be flipping this, يعني you're going to be folding this up, يعني بتسكر هالصندوق الحين. يوم بتسكر هالصندوق هني اوكي هذا القطع بتي فوق بيستوي لك هني بيروح لك فوق هني. That is the idea. So that is why x is our height. All right. Now let's simplify this one last time. And by distributing x into everything. But before that, let us simplify what's inside and arrange it properly. So x squared, I'm going to write it first. So 4x squared minus 100x minus 40 is going to be minus 140x plus 1000. I just rearranged the equation and simplified. ما سويت شيء. Times x. Now we are going to distribute this x inside. زين بس بنوزع الx داخل يعني. So we have 4x cubed because x squared times x is x cubed minus 140x squared because again x times x is just x squared plus 1000x. كل اللي سويته وزعت الx داخل. I just distributed the x. Now that we have simplified this equation, we wanted to find the maximum of v. How do we do that? We have to differentiate and equate to 0. That is the rule for finding the maximum. So max v implies that we're going to have to do dv by dx, which is equal to 4x cubed. How do we differentiate that? That is going to be 4 times 3, which is 12. And then 4 times 3 is 12. X to the power of 2. I'm doing the differentiation now, all right? Minus 140 times 2 is minus 280 times x plus 1000. Okay, this is the differentiation. So again, max v implies that dv by dx should be equal to 0. Okay, فمعناته all of this has to be equal to 0. So our equation is 12x squared minus 280x plus 100 is equal to 0. Okay? Mod 5.3, here we have a is equal to, our a is equal to 12, our b is equal to minus 280, remember the signs, and our c is equal to 1000. And here you can just use mod 5.3 in the calculator. So 12 minus 280, 1000. x1, let me put them in green actually. So x1 is equal to 18.931. The sizes initially were given in centimeters, so this is going to be in centimeters as well. And x2 is equal to, again, I just used mod 5.3 from the calculator, 4.402 centimeters. So we have two values here. Since we have two values, one of them has to be rejected, and I'll tell you why now. First, before we check, how do we check this? We can simply just take this equation, any of these equations, all right? We can take this width equation, okay? Let's take this width equation to check. So let's put x1 inside of x here. Let's substitute with x1, all right? So w, which is width, remember, this is a width value, is 20 minus 2 times x1, which is 18.931. This will give us that w is equal to 20 minus 2 times 18.931. It's going to be 20 minus 37.862. So w, we got it as a negative number, all right? We got w to be negative 17.862 centimeters. We cannot have a negative sign for a value, for a scalar value. حق إذا عندكم مقاس يعني ما تقدر تقول لي ايه الكندوره او الثوب اللي فصل لي اياها كان مقاسها ناقص 15 انش. You cannot say that. زين؟ We do not have a measurement of negative, especially when it comes to sizes and distances. We do not have that measurement. So therefore, we cannot use x1. x1 will be rejected. So here, x1 is going to be rejected. All right. So this is rejected. This is not a proper answer. So x2 is going to be our answer. Then if you put x2 in here, you're not going to get a negative value. If x1 is giving you a negative value, the x2 is not going to be a negative value. And that's how you will solve such an equation. There is an extra step. I would recommend doing it in the exam, even though this step is obsolete because we already know which value is x2. But if you remember from math 1, how do we know if it is a maximum value or a minimum value? All right, this is the question everyone usually asks. How do we know if it's a maximum or a minimum value? We will take this equation again. This is dv by dx, right? And this is dv by dx. Okay. Here, we are going to put we're going to take the second differentiation. So let me choose another color. We're going to take the second derivative now. Yani we will derive it one more time. And this is going to be 12 times 2 is 24x minus 280. And 1000 is just 0 when it differentiates 0. And now we are going to substitute these two values inside. All right, so we're going to substitute the value of 4, and we're going to substitute the value of 18.93. So if we substitute x1, x1 was equal to 18.931. And then if we substitute x1 here, we're going to get 24 into 18.931 minus 280. And then if we do this multiplication, 24 times 18.931, this is going to be 454.344 minus 280. And this is going to give us a positive value. All right, it doesn't matter what the value is. All we need to know that this is a positive value greater than 0. And remember, when you get a positive value, this is a minimum. And then when you get a positive value, you get a minimum. When you get a negative value, it is going to be a maximum. And when you substitute the second x, so x2 is 4.402. So if we substitute x2 now, which is 4.402, صح, 4.402, into the same equation over here, we're just going to substitute this x into x over here. And then now we notice that 24 times 4.402 minus 280 is going to give us a negative number. 24 times 4.402 is equal to 105.648. Sorry, 105.648 minus 280. And this is going to be a negative number, which is minus 174.352, less than 0. Because this is less than 0, because this is a negative, this is going to be, this value is going to be a maximum. Hence why this value is technically chosen. So these two are proper justifications for why this is a maximum. This is the mathematical or the calculus way, and this is the logical or basic algebraic way of proving that why this value is rejected, because we are looking for the maximum x2. All right? Let's see. So if the question asks for minimum, we have to select x1 in this case. This question will never ask you for the minimum. The minimum cannot be calculated using the volume. The way this will be asked for a minimum is if they're talking about area, not about volume. فمستحيل they will bring you a question like this and tell you to find the maximum volume. They might say find the minimum area, but not even in this form, in a different way. Okay? Why? لأن like you saw هني we don't have any minimum value. For the minimum value, it does exist, but this minimum value is not realistic. We cannot have a negative volume. Yani if you notice, we checked it with the width. You can also check it with the volume equation. So this is our volume equation, la? Okay. if you want to check it through here, you can check it through here as well. If we substitute x1, which was equal to 18.931. If you substitute, you can test this out right now. If you substitute x1 into all of these values, you're going to notice that your volume is going to be a negative number, and you cannot have a negative volume. This is another reason it will be rejected. Okay? Why did I put 4x instead of 2x for the corners? Where did I put 4x? هني I put 2x, 50 minus 2x. هني يعني I'm just showing you that this is a square. يعني all sides are equal. That's it. زين? So this is x, this is x, this is x, and this is x. That's it. I'm not putting 4 x's. In the equation, there's only 2 x's. But here, I was just showing you that since this is a square, all of the sides are equal. That's it. Okay? Any more questions about this? About this specifically? No? Clear? Let me check. I think I missed an integration question from the sheet. Did I? Was there an integration question in the second mock test? Limit. No, well, there isn't. For some reason, it's removed. So we're just going to do the Taylor series, the last question we have here. We'll conclude with this. One of the easiest things is Taylor series. In my opinion, Taylor series, limit, and it's all easy. Your exam, in my opinion, is all easy بصراحة. It's just there's a lot of concepts that you need to know and practice about, but the actual free marks is going to be your Taylor series, your limit, and your first question, which is the long division. Those should be an easy free marks, all right? So see, there's almost 15 marks just on Taylor series. حرام يعني تخسرون هالعلامات. So, Taylor series. For the function x power 4 plus x minus 2 centered at a equal 1. The first step of Taylor series, the first step is you would write your function f of x. What is your function here? x4 plus x minus 2. We know our a value, since this is a Taylor series, we have a value for a is equal to 1. Okay? Then you're gonna, if it doesn't mention, يعني for the first 4 terms or the first 10 terms or the first 2 terms, you're just gonna keep differentiating until you cannot. That's what you will do. So in this case, it's gonna be 4x cubed plus 1 minus 2 when you differentiate it goes away. The second derivative is going to be 12x squared, the 1 goes away. The third derivative is going to be 24x. Your fourth derivative, I'm just going to write f4, is going to be 24, and f5 is going to be 0. All right, it's sufficient. So once you reach 0, it's always going to be 0 after this. So it's sufficient to stop over here, because you know after it, everything is just going to be 0. Now, that is the first step. The second step, substitute a for everything. So this is going to be f of a. And then, remember, what is a? A is simply equal to 1. So you're going to substitute 1 in all of your x's. So this is going to be equal to 1 to the power of 4 plus 1 minus 2, which is equal to 2 minus 2, 0. So 1 to the power of 4 is just 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. We will do the same thing for f prime of a. And then is equal to 4 times 1 cubed, which is just 1, plus 1. So it's equal to 4 plus 1, which is 5. You'll do the same thing for your double derivative. We're going to substitute 1, so it's 12 times 1 squared. 12 times 1 squared is just 12. Same thing for the third derivative of a. 1 instead of x is going to be 24 times 1, which is simply just 24. Same thing for your last derivative, or the fourth one. Just going to write fourth derivative of a is equal to, so here there's no x to substitute in, it's always going to be equal to 24, so it's just simply 24. Okay, 24, which is 24. All right, so again, all you're going to be doing is substituting your value for a inside all of these. It's going to be a. All right. First step done. We found all the differentiation, yani the derivatives. Second step done. We did all our substitutions. Last and final step, all you have to do is use this formula, which will be given to you in the exam for Taylor or Maclaurin series. And so in our case, we have a Taylor series. This is how you would do a Taylor series. Now you are just going to apply this equation for all of this. All right. So let me zoom out just a little bit so we can see this. You know what? We'll keep referring back to it. All right. So let us start. So f of x, if you notice here, it says f of x. So we start writing f of x is going to be equal to f of a. What was the value of f of a? 0. 0. Plus f prime of a. What was the value of f prime of a? 5. Into x minus a. What is a? 1. Over 1 factorial. All right? This is how we start. Plus, again, f double prime a. What was f double prime a? 12. Then times x minus 1 squared over 2 factorial. Remember a, you're just going to substitute the value for a. So this a over here, you're just going to put 1 instead. All right, so 1, 1, 1. That's all you're going to do. Again, plus f triple prime of a. What was f triple prime of a? 24. Times x minus 1 cubed over 3 factorial. Plus, again, this will keep continuing until you reach your last value, which is this one, f to the power of 4. It is also 24 plus 24 times x minus 1 to the power of 4 over 4 factorial. Then if you want to do, just to check, so we know that f power 5 is 0. So f power 5 of a is also going to be 0. If we wanted to do it here, it's going to be plus 0 times whatever, so it's going to be 0. And it will keep going at 0, 0, 0. So that's why we stay with this. Let's simplify this a little bit. So f of x is equal to 5 over 1 factorial. 1 factorial is just 1, so 5 into x minus 1 plus 12 over 2 factorial. 2 factorial is just 2, so it's 12 over 2 into x minus 1 squared plus 24 over 3 factorial. 3 factorial is just 3 times 2 times 1. All right, it's times 1, but anything times 1 is just the number itself, into x minus 1 cubed plus 24 over 4 factorial, which is 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, into x minus 1 to the power of 4. Last step of simplification. So this is 5 into x minus 1. You do not need to distribute. You can keep them in this. It's fine. Plus 12 divided by 2 is 6. So 6 into x minus 1 squared. Plus 24 divided by 3 factorial. Or 24 divided by 6, yani, is going to be 4. Into x minus 1 cubed. Plus 24 divided by 4 factorial. Or it's going to be 6 times 4, which is 24. 24 over 24 is just 1. So it's plus x minus 1 to the power of 4. And this is your final answer. Right? This is how you would do Taylor. If they gave you Maclaurin, right? If they gave you Maclaurin, the only difference in this formula between Taylor and Maclaurin, everything is going to be a is equal to 0. All right? So you're going to be putting, so in the case of, let me just write this down here as well. Let me copy paste this, put it down here. If Maclaurin a is equal to 0. So what will you do? You're just going to put 0, 0. This minus a is going to go. This minus a is going to go because it's minus 0. This is going to be 0. This is going to be 0. And this is going to go. And it will keep going like that. Okay, that's the only difference between Maclaurin and Taylor. Nothing new, exact same concept, exact same application. One last thing I want to comment on here. So in this case here, this will be our first term. Then this will be our second term. This will be our third term. And this is called our fourth term. Remember that the zeros do not count as terms. So this is 0, does not count as your first term. And the final answer, this is where the terms matter. So if you have 4 here, remember here we had 5 because we had f of a as well. But f of a was equal to 0. So we're going to have to write these terms as well. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Any questions? Let's see. If they asked, for example, 4 terms, will I need to have 4 functions or 5, including the original? Like I said here, just as I explained, it depends on what your final solution, how many terms you will have. So you'll be able to analyze it early on. ما في next، خلصنا الموck test ترى. Including the original total of 4. Yes, including the original total of 4. You're right. إذا كان مكلارن نحط الكالكوليتر على radians mode. It's not if it was McLaurin. If you were given a cosine or sine function here, leave it in radians mode. All right. I don't think they're going to give you a big problem يعني إذا خليتها in degrees or radians, or they might mention it in the question. And the best way to do it is just ask the tutor in that question. And sometimes the teachers themselves are always يعني they want their own way, whether it's sine or cosine. But into you guys, my recommendation during the exam, ask them if I should put it in radians or if I should put it in degrees. Ask if you have cosine or sine. That is the only time it will matter. If you see pi, just know instantly it's in radians. Okay, if you see pi, instantly know it's in radians. Generally, in mathematics, it would be in radians. If you are not dealing with angles, it will be in radians. However, just make sure that you're asking your tutor. All right. So this is it. This is the mock. Very straightforward.